This, I think, points to just his sense of entitlement, the sort of element of droit de seigneur that he has. He doesn't sort of think of anyone except his own personal interests. And this is why I think he's found it so hard to make any sort of apology or to show any sort of control.
Tonight we are going inside a blunt and very public character assessment of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, one that has set royal circles buzzing. A former royal girlfriend has spoken out with remarkable honesty, calling him ignorant, entitled, and convinced that the world owes him a favor. These comments come from Susanna Constantine, a well-known television personality who once dated Princess Margaret's son, David Armstrong Jones. She says she spent time around Andrew, and what she witnessed left a lasting impression. Her words are sharp, unfiltered, and perfectly aligned with a pattern seen across decades of his behavior. In this video, we will break down what she said, why she said it, and how these new remarks add to the growing portrait of a man whose downfall has been both dramatic and painfully public. We will also look at another woman from Andrew's past who predicted his collapse more than 40 years ago, with eerie accuracy. If you follow this channel regularly, you already know that new details about Andrew's character keep surfacing, and none of them are flattering. This story adds yet another piece to that troubling puzzle. Susanna Constantine explained her experiences by comparing Andrew to the rest of the royal family. She said, "Prince Philip could be a bit tetchy at times and would throw a few expletives your way. The Queen was wonderful, polite, and respectful, but Andrew, he was completely different." She described how he could fly off the handle at the smallest thing, shouting, swearing, and becoming verbally abusive over trivial matters. Her comments came during her appearance on the podcast Spooning with Mark Wogan, where Wogan asked a simple question: "Is the former Duke of York misunderstood?" Her answer was instant and brutal. She called Andrew ignorant and entitled. She said he behaves as if the world owes him something, and that he carries himself like someone who believes he is above the law. She added that entitlement is the worst trait a person can have, and she made it very clear she is not a fan. These are not comments made by someone with a grudge or someone chasing sensationalism. These are observations from someone who spent years around the royal family. She recalled how Andrew would shout out of car windows if traffic slowed for even a moment, yelling insults like "you effing buffoons." She said he gave no leeway. If things were not done exactly his way, he would lose his temper instantly. Constantine dated within the royal circle for 6 years. She carried herself quietly and respectfully during that period and remains friendly with her former partner, the second Earl of Snowdon. So when someone like her speaks openly, people listen. She also questioned how Andrew ever managed to earn a helicopter license, noting how difficult it is, and pointing out that her own son is in the Royal Navy. According to her, the process is extremely strict, suggesting Andrew may have been pushed through doors that would have stayed firmly shut for anyone else. And that statement touches a far wider issue that has followed Andrew for decades. A belief that rules simply did not apply to him, that he expected privilege without responsibility, that he believed access, opportunity, and respect were automatic because of his position, not his contribution. Constantine did offer a small moment of sympathy. She said, "Growing up as a royal spare must be difficult. You are born into immense wealth and privilege but without a real purpose. Your path is chosen for you. You don't get to create your own identity." Many royal commentators have said the same thing, but what stood out was how quickly she returned to her main point. No upbringing and no circumstance excused the level of entitlement she witnessed. It's a reminder that people close to the family saw Andrew's behavior not just as part of his upbringing, but something deeper, something that repeated itself over years and across relationships. In contrast, both she and Wogan praised Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, calling them sensible, charming, and grounded. Constantine said that for the daughters to turn out so well, there must be some good qualities in their parents somewhere. That praise highlights the contradiction at the center of Andrew's public image. Two daughters respected for their decency, raised by parents known for arrogance, denial, poor judgment, and a lifetime of scandals. Now we turn to another voice from Andrew's past, one that shows how deeply rooted his behavior really was. Decades before the current scandals, a woman who knew him in the early 1980s warned that his attitude would eventually catch up with him. Her name was Vicky Hodge, a glamorous actress and model who met Andrew in Barbados in 1983. Older, more worldly, and far more experienced, she spotted red flags immediately. According to biographer Andrew Loney, her first impressions were not flattering. She said Andrew launched into endless jokes that were not funny, jokes he thought were brilliant simply because he loved the sound of his own voice. The next day, she found him swimming nude in the sea, everything on display. She described a young man craving attention and behaving without boundaries. They went on to have a 10-day romance. She said he was immature, full of himself, flirtatious, and overly convinced of his own charm. He even told her he loved her, then disappeared the moment he sailed away. No call, no letter, nothing. Only weeks later, she gave a quote to the Mirror, which now feels astonishingly accurate. She said Andrew was headstrong and refused to listen to advice unless it suited him. She said he needed someone strong enough to stop him from getting into escapades that would embarrass himself and the royal family. Her words sound like prophecy today. No one knew then that decades later he would become entangled in the Epstein scandal, stripped of his honors, removed from public duties, and seen internationally as a liability to the monarchy. Her description matches perfectly with what insiders have said for years. A man unwilling to learn, unwilling to listen, unwilling to recognize consequences until it was far too late. These two women from two completely different eras of Andrew's life describe the exact same traits: entitlement, ignorance, arrogance, immaturity, a refusal to listen, a belief that rules didn't apply to him. Their accounts match what former staff members, biographers, and royal insiders have described for years. Tantrums, rudeness, lewd jokes, pranks aimed at humiliating women, lavish spending, questionable travel, a long pattern of behavior rooted in privilege and a complete disregard for consequences. Accounts of his private parties are even more disturbing. Multiple witnesses claim his behavior was crude, juvenile, and often aimed at women. One example describes him creeping up behind a well-known woman and unzipping her dress in front of everyone as if it were a party trick. Another story describes him shoving a young guest's face into a plate of food while laughing, treating humiliation as entertainment. These stories go back to his late teens and stretch well into adulthood, clear signs of someone who thrived on pushing boundaries just to see how far he could go. Witnesses say he never seemed embarrassed or apologetic. He enjoyed attention, even if it came at someone else's expense. These stories create a broader picture of a man whose immaturity and disregard for others were visible long before the world saw the scandals. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor once lived a life built on privilege, access, and unearned favor. Today, he faces the consequences of that life. He has no public role. He has no titles. He remains under pressure to leave Royal Lodge. And new stories continue to surface from people who knew him, each one reinforcing the same image. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you want continuous coverage on the royal scandals unfolding behind the scenes, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. More chapters are coming, and I will cover every one. Thank you for watching.